It takes the right skills and the right innovation to design and manage meaningful print marketing solutions. Welcome to Podcasts from the Printerverse, where we explore all facets of print and marketing that create meaningful communications and business success. Now, here's your host, the intergalactic ambassador to the Printerverse, Deborah Korn.
Hey everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. Welcome to Podcasts from the Printerverse. I am Deborah Korn, your intergalactic ambassador. And today we are talking with Dan Johansson, the Senior Manager, Wide Format at Ricoh USA. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Deb.
And we are going to have a conversation that I've been looking forward to, which is new trends and trends in the wide format market. Dan, why don't you tell everybody first who you are, a little bit about yourself, and what your role is at Ricoh?
Sure. In this role at Ricoh, I'm responsible for coordinating our wide format portfolio to make sure that we're offering the right products and services to our customers, sort of regardless of what space they may be in, whether they're printers or implants and the like. I've got a long background in the graphic communication space, but most recently, even before coming to Ricoh about a year ago, I spent the last few years as the GM of a large format printing business here in the Boston area. So I came into this role with a good understanding of what customers think about when they're thinking wide format, some of the challenges that they face when trying to drive a new business, a growing business, and what's important in doing the best job for your customers. So I take a lot of that experience and try to have that influence what we do as a company in developing wide format solutions for our customers.
Wide format has obviously been around for a very long time, but I would have to say by my attendance at industry and participation at industry events, maybe in the last 3 years, it's become extremely topical. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's rooted in economics, actually, because whereas wide format for the last 20 or so years has been, I don't want to necessarily call it a niche industry, because, you know, even as early as 5 years ago, the retail value of wide format was still over $16 billion in spend, right? So it was an enormous marketplace. But I think what we've seen in the last handful of years, especially in the printing business and commercial printing, is a significant uptick in the need for commercial printers to diversify, right? I always talk about how if you're doing cut sheet work, you're not doing wide format, you're thinking about it, right? Because your customers are asking for it. Mm-hmm. So we've seen tremendous growth in interest and acquisitions by printers who are expanding their work into wide format, you know, for a variety of different reasons. If you're a commercial printer who does a lot of work for retailers, for example, it's a logical extension for you to reach out and start to offer more products to customers for whom you're serving with just cut sheet work. From a profit perspective and from a revenue perspective and a margin perspective, it's also the easiest path for printers to grow their business. One of the things I talk about is when we talk with printers about their desire to grow, is they've got a couple of options, right? Their first option is they can sort of expand capacity of what they already do, right? So if you're a printer, your primary product is cut sheet work. You know, you can do more of what you do, which means you invest in maybe greater capacity. You put a lot of money into marketing or sales efforts to try to bring in more business. But let's face it, that market from a margin contribution perspective, the big moves are small incrementally, just because the margin contribution in that business is relatively small compared to others. So, you know, so printers can expand capacity and do more of what they already do. But what they're really thinking about, what many printers are really thinking about these days, is how do I expand what I do into new and differentiated products that can, you know, where I can do more for my customers and attract new customers. But I want to do it, and quite simply, to be, you know, blunt about it, I want to make more money. But I don't want to make small incremental moves. You know, I'm not biting the elephant off one bite at a time, so to speak. I want to get into an opportunity where I can bring in growth that's not just single digit, but it has opportunities for larger growth for my business. And wide format is the most attractive way to do that. And it's for a couple of simple reasons. Based on the average revenue opportunity and margin opportunity with wide format, the average printer who's considering wide format, if they look at an ROI to understand the economic impact of wide format, in many cases, the ROI of wide format is less than a year. It truly is. It's less than a year. But just as important, from a contribution perspective, the average margin contribution from wide format to the printer is anywhere between 2 and 10 times the margin contribution they're getting out of cut sheet. So it's a very attractive way for them to grow their business. And again, as I mentioned, the customers they're already serving are likely already buying wide format. They're just doing it from somewhere else. So the path to revenue growth and profit growth is not just attractive, but it can be easy.
The Ricoh Commercial and Industrial Business Printing Group is pleased to be a pioneer in this journey with Print Media Center for podcasts from the Printerverse. Ricoh drives success in all areas of your operation with a customer-centric approach to business. Ricoh offers a full range of customized consulting services executed by a team of seasoned print production, workflow, and color management specialists who have decades of proven, real-world practical experience. We invite you to learn more at takealookatricoh.com. There's never been more to see. That's takealookatricoh.com.
The move towards a one-stop print shop is something that I am definitely behind and talk about as often as possible. With commercial printers incorporating wide format and maybe sign shops and wide format, traditionally wide format printers incorporating toner, how are these lines blurring between all of these printers out there? And does that impact the marketplace?
It does, actually, because I think what we're seeing is there used to be some unique silos. You were a commercial printer, maybe you were a wide format printer. In many cases, a lot of the companies that were just wide format, maybe they started out as screen printers and just evolved into more digital technology, but they were serving their customers in those verticals that they supported, whether it's, point of purchase and retail, et cetera. Or you were a sign business, primarily focused on mostly rigid substrates, primarily for hard signage. So we're seeing those lines blur, as I mentioned, because the people who are buying these products tend to be the same, and they're going to multiple vendors. So we're seeing print buyers want to single source this stuff. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing printers want to cover more ground. So the lines between those segments of commercial print, wide format, and sign are indeed blurring. And it's creating exciting new opportunities for companies to look at the market segments that they could serve and really start to expand what they do once they understand what markets are growing with wide format technology.
That's actually a perfect segue because I want to get into those verticals. Let's just assume that we're talking specifically to the commercial printers now, not the traditional wide format printers or sign shops. What are the vertical markets that are growing? What are the industries that are buying more wide format products? And are there any sort of areas that they should stay away from?
That's another great question, Deb. So if we look at the markets who are primarily buying wide format, we'll look at it from two angles. One is, what industries are buying format. And then the second one will be who's buying more wide format than they used to, right? And that paints a unique picture. So if we think about who's buying wide format now, by far, the most overwhelming from a percentage perspective continues to be retail. I think wide format is such a strong technology to serve retail and point of purchase graphics because, if you're a really large commercial printer, you probably have relationships with large national retailers. So expanding out from cut sheet traditional commercial print work out into wide format is a natural growth path for you. And you've got customers who are buying high volume where wide format could really make a big difference from a production perspective, giving you differentiation in substrates and sizes that you can't do with a toner-based device or with an offset press. So retail is the leading economic driver, but then you've got other market segments like education, real estate, construction, restaurant, food service. So you look at all of these other segments, and they exist not necessarily just on a large national plane, but they exist on a regional and local plane as well too. So you've got universities, regional real estate companies, construction businesses. So these are businesses who spend a lot of money in wide format, and that allows the printer to see all of them as market opportunities based on the industries they might already serve. So there's a lot of money being spent in a variety of different industries. But if you look at where it's maybe growing or declining, I think there are some surprises in there. So if you look at how the wide format demand is changing industry by industry, you'll see some surprises here. So healthcare, for example, is the largest growth market for wide format right now, not by dollars, but by percentage of growth. So if you think about hospitals and medical facilities, they're finally sort of coming around to all these great opportunities with wide format to brand themselves, to market the products and services that they offer. And so whether it's a doctor's office or a hospital, there's enormous growth in that segment. But as I mentioned before, construction is growing at a rate where they're seeing significant growth year over year. Education is growing year over year as universities and even down to the local level are using wide format to promote, to market, to educate and engage. As I mentioned, retail continues to be strong in growth. Real estate continues to grow, but you'll see a couple of segments that are declining in their wide format purchasing. Restaurant and food service is a perfect example. And while if you're a printer, you can always go out and call on regional restaurant chains or even one-off locations to do interior or exterior signage, interior graphics, wall coverings, etc. But in that space, in the restaurant and food service space, you're seeing a big push towards digital signage, which is reducing their spend in wide format. Same thing in architectural and engineering, where large volumes of impressions were being done in that CAD space, in the engineering space. That's declining as electronic documentation. With the complete and utter proliferation of PDF, we're seeing less produced in that segment. So some of these trends here are very helpful for printers to understand where could they focus their energies and efforts on, because wide format is, as we all know, is much more than banners and posters.
Right. And a big part of that has to do with the substrates and the ink capabilities of the presses. So what are the trends, according to Ricoh USA, as far as new substrates, new ink opportunities, and how does that actually impact someone purchasing print?
Well, it's a great time for wide format printers in that regard, because I think across the primary inkjet technologies that support the wide format market, it gives the greatest variation and greatest diversity in applications. So between UV inkjet, solvent, and then eco solvent, you've got technologies that offer something for just about everyone. Now, UV has been, in the last number of years, has been sort of the equalizer, because for the most part, for the majority of applications out there and for the broadest substrate applicability, UV printing has been driving tremendous innovation, because from a simple application perspective, because UV printers deliver the ink onto the surface of the material and don't necessarily require a chemical reaction between the ink and the substrate. What you've got there are devices that can virtually print on anything. Now, they may not have some of the photographic characteristics that you get with traditional water-based inks, old school aqueous inkjet. But what they do offer is, most of the manufacturers that have these devices have ink sets where the ink will adhere to just about anything. And even if it won't adhere to it, there are treatments out there where you can pre-treat substrates to get that ink adhesion. So now wide format has really broken down the barriers from what we think traditional substrates are in wide format, and really expanded that product application where people are using wide format for textiles, for soft signage, which is an enormous growth market right now in wide format. They're using latex inkjet to do immediate dry clear applications for window clings and that sort of stuff for retail. because of this, the ink versatility, they're branching out and getting into other substrates that really deliver new profit opportunities that aren't commoditized, like aluminum panel or acrylic substrates, whether it's for photographic or architectural applications. So the great state of where we are right now is between these technologies, there's almost nothing a printer can't print on. And I think when you boil it down to, there's a reason why, for example, latex inkjet and UV inkjet are the two most widely purchased wide format technologies. It's simply because both of those technologies offer tremendous diversity in substrate application.
Like what you hear? Maybe it's time for you to take a look at Ricoh. There's never been more to see. Visit takealookatricoh.com. That's takealookatricoh.com.
Something I often say to printers is just because you can doesn't mean you should. It doesn't always work out to stick that art on that substrate. It doesn't always work out, even though you can do it. What is the trend in education about wide format? Or what should the trend be as far as actually communicating to those end users about what the new possibilities are with this technology?
Well, I think because of the substrate diversity that we talked about, one of the most important things for a printer to have in their arsenal is not just a company like Ricoh who can help you make a lot of the decisions about what technology is right for you. But there's something that hasn't changed in all of the years I've been in this business is the simultaneous need to have substrate expertise at your disposal. When I ran my printing business here, one of my most important contacts was my local consumable supplier, who I could call up and say, hey, I have a customer that came to us with this very large job. We need a material that's going to go outdoors on concrete columns, that's 30 feet in the air. They need to be outdoors for a year. They need to withstand the weather, bright sun, and all of the different outdoor elements that you'd have in a situation like this. What can we print on that'll work? And if not for a good relationship with my local consumable supplier, I may never have known that there was a perfect product designed specifically for concrete type applications. And so that's a big part of what the suppliers to our customers need to do to make sure that they're continually educated. And I think trade shows are a big part of that as well. When I look back at the most recent large format show at SGIA just a short few months ago, one of the things that I'm constantly amazed by are the diversity of substrate manufacturers and distributors who have products that from one side you think are really unique and it must be a niche business and maybe doesn't generate a lot of money. But because there's such great revenue opportunities in wide format, I think manufacturers see even niche products as a way to get into a customer, where once they're buying maybe their niche product, they may love that product so much they then go back and buy that company's more commoditized product like banner material, et cetera. And so I think it's critically important that printers look at those substrates, because I'll be honest with you, if people decide, hey, I'm going to get into wide format because I just want to do a lot of banner printing, the reality is everybody does a little bit of banner printing. So that product in and of itself is somewhat commoditized. The pricing at the street to the customer is less than it is with other products. I've seen many entrepreneurial minded printers who go into wide format and say, you know what, I'm going to focus on markets that are quite unique, where the revenue opportunity and the margin opportunity is big. So I'm going to focus on a unique vertical like health clubs. This is one that I love, because when I go to my local gym and I walk in, 90% of the graphics on their wall were done on aluminum panel. Direct print aluminum panel, die cut into shapes, gears, all this sort of stuff. The great thing about that is if you're a health club organization, if you're a gym, that stuff looks great. It's a great way to promote your messaging. It looks strong. It has a good, strong message. But the best part, if you're a printer, is you're not selling that stuff for $3, $4, $5 a square foot. You're selling it for $12, $13, $14 a square foot at a cost that's only incrementally higher than what you'd be spending for other sort of materials. So it's really an eye-opener when you understand that wide format has such a broad range based on the things you can print on. broad range of markets and profit opportunities based on how you want to serve your customers.
Let's have a little fun now, because you see a lot of cool wide format stuff, and that's really, the best part of all of this at the end is what you can make with it. What are some of the more unique applications you've seen created with wide format? And if it's possible to figure this out, do you know like which type of products and areas to serve actually yield the highest profits?
Well, I can tell you from experience, it tends to be the more unique products, as I mentioned, like aluminum panels, acrylics, digitally printable acrylics, like the Optics DA product that's on the market, where you've got an acrylic product that's pre-treated for UV printing, is another great example of a product that you can use UV technology for to do some pretty amazing wide format work. And you see them a lot in corporate environments, in industrial environments, even in restaurants where people are printing photographic elements, and they're using standoffs. If you've ever seen an image that sort of floats off the wall, the hardware that floats it from the wall is called a standoff. It's beautiful. And it's a really beautiful application of wide format. But it's also so unique that there's no market pricing set for doing that type of work on that material. So most times when a printer engages with that type of work for an organization, they can almost price it any way they like. Another segment or product that's unique is I've seen a lot of printers get into wall covering, and not just wall covering in the form of adhesive back vinyls that we use for mounting on a variety of substrates, but actual wallpapers that are manufactured specifically for digital printing. And by the way, they're installed the same way traditional wallpaper is installed with paste. But I've seen massive interior applications where wallpaper is the substrate, but you've got a company that wants to do branding on a large scale, on a large canvas. In particular, I think about a manufacturer here in the greater Boston area who has a massive manufacturing facility, and they wanted to line their hallways with all of this imagery of their products and the market they serve. And they ended up buying thousands of linear feet of wallpaper, of digitally printed wallpaper, where they lined the walls of their entire manufacturing facility. And again, in that case, it was not price sensitive, right? They wanted something very unique and very custom. It wasn't something that they could just go out and pick from a catalog. It wasn't something they could just go to their local quick print business and get. So they were looking for an integrated solution where they could be helped from a design perspective, because let's face it, you're covering that much square footage of wall space. You need extremely high resolution images. You need someone that can print it, and you need someone that can install it as well too. So those are the kinds of applications that can really change the dynamic of how we think about wide format. So, but then you also think about it from a small format perspective and how products can really be unique. Here's a great one. There's a Ricoh customer in New York who has flatbed technology that we sold to them that uses their large format technology to print these very small desktop cell phone holders. And they're printed on PVC with a little backer. And so they're using large format technology to produce small format stuff. And it's very unique. They're all customized and branded. This company focuses on a lot of smaller regional retailers. So again, they're not selling a commoditized product that can be pulled off the shelf and that can be done by anyone. They're focusing on a unique market with a unique application. So, and again, a lot of this wouldn't be possible if there weren't such diversity in substrates to do so.
The Ricoh Commercial and Industrial Business Printing Group is pleased to be a pioneer in this journey with Print Media Center for podcasts from the Printerverse. From workflow assessment and color management services to a full portfolio of outstanding hardware, software, and finishing solutions to give your business an edge, Ricoh has what you need at every step of the way. We invite you to learn more at takealookatricoh.com. There's never been more to see at takealookatricoh.com.
What do you think the trend is going to be as far as direct to textile and in regard to wide format?
This is a market segment that I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the next few years. So, we've got a significant interest in direct to garment specifically, not necessarily to textile at a broad perspective, but with our Anajet products, of which we just launched a new, very affordable desktop T-shirt printer. I think for people who are in, whether it's commercial print, in the sign business, and I also see this as a huge opportunity in the franchise space for companies like Fast Signs or Signs by Tomorrow, Alpha Graphics. I see we're seeing a dramatic change in the market's demand for customized and personalized everything, right? Go on to Amazon these days, and the wealth of products that can be customized in a one-at-a-time basis is really incredible these days. So whether it's, creating your own cell phone cover, right, with a unique, you want a picture of your dog on the back of your cell phone case, or doing things like garment printing. I think the consumers are demanding and expecting virtually on-demand and unique customized products. And so in garment, that's tremendous because, you can go into your local shop who might have a direct-to-garment T-shirt printer and order 10 shirts for your family's trip to Disney World. Or maybe you're a school or a local sporting organization and you want to have custom graphics made. You can do that now at a local level. You don't have to be forced to use a mail order system. So we're seeing a broad proliferation in direct-to-garment. On the direct-to-textile, that's really where it gets exciting because wide format technology, inkjet technology is being used to now do not just individual strike-offs for a certain pattern for a clothing design. I think 20 years ago, people were using devices like an iris to do single sheets of a design for a dress or a men's tie or something, where they were going to use that inkjet printed garment to just do a proof, what they called a strike-off. But now that we've got devices that can image up to 5 meters wide, with options for direct to textiles of all different kinds, now we're seeing short and long runs of everything from curtains to wall coverings to textiles being used for actual clothing manufacturing. When I was at SGIA, I saw a tremendous device that was being shown where companies can use this device with this really unique ink technology and inkjet full runs of garments, permanent garments that can be washed and treated the same way any other garment gets printed. The only difference is instead of being printed traditionally, they're being done with inkjet technology. So it's creating tremendous growth in that segment because of its ability for sustained long-run printing or shorter-run printing. And I think in the retail space, retailers who want to sell new designs don't have to commit to such large volumes of product. They can commit to a shorter run, see how it sells, and then order more. And that's always been the great thing about digital imaging technology, is that you can bite off a small piece, see how it does, and increase your production as demand grows, whereas traditionally you had to pre-commit to thousands, if not tens of thousands of pieces. So I think inkjet is actually changing the decor and garment space as radically as digital imaging did to the printing space 25 years ago at the onset of digital prepress.
So, Dan, we're just about out of time, but last question. You are the senior manager for wide format at Ricoh. How is Ricoh helping customers and printers wanting to get into this space navigate the wide format market?
So a great question. I'll tell you one of the things that we did sort of foundationally over the last few years is knowing that we had a long-term strategy for wide format and how important it was going to become in our overall business strategy. We started to increase our staffing and our approach to the kinds of people that we bring on here at Ricoh. So one of the perfect examples of that, in the last couple of years, we've built a dedicated wide format sales team that rivals the size and scale of many direct manufacturers in this space to support wide format for our customers. So we've got a dozen people spread across the U.S. who are industry experts in wide format. They come from the industry. They've lived and breathed this for many years. And their sole objective is to consultatively work with our customers to help them achieve their goals in wide format. So it's important. It's important that we talk about that because, we have a group of people who aren't out just trying to sell someone a machine. They're really trying to solve the customer's problem. And the reason we brought in industry experts to fill these roles is we want to be the type of company that customers can come to and express where they want to go and how they think they might want to go there. But look to someone who can help them figure out the best way to do it. Because it might not just be the decision around what technology. It could be how to finance it. Or it could be, along with the technology, how do we make sure that the work you do as you expand into wide format is consistent with the work you do with other technologies. So not just having wide format advisors that can help you in that regard, but also filling those gaps with people in our professional services team, et cetera, to help sort of create the glue that sticks it all together. So I think if I were to share anything, wide format is not a product line or a part of our portfolio. Wide format is really an initiative for Ricoh, and a critically important one as we look to our future. We see it as one of the driving forces for our own growth in both commercial and industrial printing.
You also identified another trend here, which is that printers want to work with partners, not just people that sell them products and services. So you have completely been that person today. So thank you so much for sharing your information. I look forward to speaking to you more, of course, and getting some of your wide format customers to share their stories. And thank you so much for your time, Dan.
Thanks, Deb. Have a great day.
You've been listening to podcasts from the Printerverse. We'd love to hear your feedback on our shows and topics that are of interest for future broadcasts. Please connect with us through printmediacenter.com, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcasts for alerts on new shows. Until next time, thank you for joining us and listening to podcasts from the Printerverse. Print long and prosper.